Okay, so one of the initiatives of Alpha Kappa Alpha is to continue to raise community awareness of critical health issues that impact African American women. Some of those primary focuses will be breast cancer awareness, prevention, heart health, and nutrition and wellness, and care for the caregiver. So again, this falls specifically under the care for the caregiver. A lot of times when caregivers are taking care of their loved ones, many times they sometimes take a back seat to taking care of their own selves. So again, you want to make sure you are equipping yourself with the knowledge and resources to be an advocate for yourself. I'm now going to turn it over to my soror, Deborah McCoy, who will introduce our speaker this morning.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I have the pleasure of introducing Mrs. Audrey Peppers. She was born and raised in Beulah, Mississippi. She's a licensed clinical professional counselor who has a Bachelor of Science in Speech Pathology and Audiology from Delta State University, and that's also the university where she became a proud member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated and one of my sorority sisters. She also holds a Master of Science in Community Mental Health from Eastern Illinois University. She's a licensed clinical professional counselor, and she's worked her entire career in family and child serving systems, such as early childhood, transitional housing for women and children, care coordination as clinical director in the public school system, and crisis and community mental health. Mrs. Pepper believes that people are the best solutions to their own problems, and if they have the proper support, they can accomplish anything. She's comfortable with treating a host of mental health challenges, including sexual and emotional trauma, attention deficit disorder, anxiety disorders, relationship issues, divorce, grief and loss, and a host of other disorders. Mrs. Peppers has been happily and is happily, not has been, is happily married to the Reverend Anthony Peppers for 26 years. Together, they have 3 beautiful children and 2 wonderful, darling grandchildren. Please help me welcome Mrs. Audrey Peppers.
Good morning, sorors, and to all of those who are currently attending. I am going to share my screen here, and we will get started and talk a little bit this morning about stress and the implications of that. Well, let me find Zoom. I had it up. So give me just a second here. Go out for a second. I'm going to need to exit, reduce just for a second and get onto my PowerPoint here. And so we'll talk sometime here this morning about stress and the implications of that and how we together, because it will take us together to be able to minimize stress. If you have any questions at any point, I'm not quite sure how you will manage the forum today, but I'm certainly available to answer them if you've got questions for me. So let's talk a little bit then about what stress is and what our goals for the day in terms of what we're hoping to learn about stress. I want to talk a little bit about sort of the complexity of what stress is. I mean, it impacts so many different systems, our psychological and physical health systems. And so it's hard to define. Scientists aren't fully in agreement. So we want to talk about that a little bit. I want to talk about the negative impacts today of stress, and you know most of those, but I will briefly go through those. But I'm really going to try and hang my hat today on sort of the benefits of stress so we can start to think about stress in a new way and to imagine stress as a helper versus a hindrance. So we'll talk about that. And then I hope I can leave you with how to get the maximum benefits out of your stress, how to come up with some effective stress reduction techniques for yourselves. And so that would be my goal today, is if we can lead with some of those things, I hope that then can help us as we are caretakers, taking care of families, taking care of friends and loved ones. So what is stress? What is it? We can think about it in a couple different ways. I'm going to hang my hat today, though, on sort of Hans Selye. He's a noted endocrinologist who kind of introduced the idea of stress into our lexicon. And so he sees it as sort of a non-specific response to the body, on the body of any sort of demand. So that could be simple demands, even just getting dressed in the morning. So we can have stress with just getting ready to get out of the door. And so that definition is one that I'm going to hang my hat on. Though there are others, some people see it as Stephen Hoffball saw it as sort of a profit and loss sort of thing. As we have resources and they deplenish, we kind of lose our emotional mental health, our resources when they're deplenished create stress. So he likes to see it in that way, and other scientists will see it in other ways. For the purpose of our discussion though, one of the things that we find with stress is that, and I think Selye said it best, is that this idea of stress is something that we all sort of know about. It's really widely out there. We all experience it. We all come and have some stress at some point, sometimes on a daily basis, but we just don't really understand it. So that really is sort of where we land. So I'm going to do my best today to talk about some of these ideas of stress. So let me give you just a little bit on sort of how we experience stress. We have sort of acute stressors, those kind of stressors that, they're short term, they kind of come on a daily basis. Again, it could be something as simple as getting the kids out in the morning. That produces some stress, but it doesn't typically have any sort of long-term effects on us. It doesn't stay with us. It doesn't create any kind of health problems, any health disparities, but it's stress. Then we have some stressors that are more episodic. We're busy women, busy people today, maybe deadlines. We have recurring deadlines, getting reports out. Those things can create a lot of stress as well. Recurring sort of episodic kinds of stresses. Again, those can lead to more of the stress that creates problems for us, the chronic kinds of stress. Those are the stressors that just hang around. They don't leave us, they stick around. They're the things that we feel like we just can't get out of. And those are the stressors that tend to create health concerns, psychological concerns. That's the stress that we want to try to minimize. We will never get rid of all stress, but this idea of just sort of recognizing what kind of stress we're having is helpful. It's helpful in the idea of it can help us focus our energies so that we can get the maximum benefits. And so today, when I talk about sort of mitigating stress, I'm really talking about this chronic kind of stress that, things like divorce bring on, things like losing a loved one brings on. Those things are being in poverty. This is Minority Health Month. And we know that poverty brings lots of demands and stressors onto people. And so these kinds of things are the kinds of stressors are what I'd like for us to kind of focus a little energy on today. Now, as we look, I won't spend a ton of time here, but I do want, just in case we've lost track of some of these, impacts of stress, those negative ones, I do want to point some of them out. Stress in itself has just been related to sort of all of the common sort of major causes of death in the West. And so Americans work really hard, they work really long hours, we don't take care of ourselves as well, we're really productive in a lot of ways. And stress can impact our productivity. I'll just say that right now. But cancer, heart disease, liver disease, accidents, all of those things, lung disease, suicide, the major causes of death, all of them have been well researched. And stress is a major contributor to all of those. So if we can at least start to think about health in a new way, think about stress in a new way, that can help mitigate some of these causes. And we know in the African American community that these things are very prevalent. These elements are very prevalent. And so we want to really, again, focus on that. Other sorts of impacts of negative impacts of stress can be weakened immune system, gastrointestinal problems, just all kinds of things. Dental problem. One of the things we don't talk a lot about is what stress does to our teeth. It could cause teeth to, people grind their teeth in the middle of the night sometimes when they're under stress. It can cause teeth to fail, to crack, to break. We can get jaw problems as a result of that teeth grinding that comes along with anxiety and stress. And so that's one of the areas that we don't pay close attention to. So if you've got kids or other folks you know, and they all of a sudden are having lots of pain in their face, joint pain, you might want to find out if they're under a lot of stress, if they're grinding their teeth. That's something to think about. Along with that, we can have reproductive or sexual health problems. If we're under stress, it impacts menstrual cycles. It can alter them, change them, shorten them, cause you to miss them. The tension in our bodies can make intimacy difficult, cause libidos to drop. So stress just does a lot of things to the body. Fatigue and weight changes. And we'll talk a little bit about that as we go through. And I will spend some time as we move further talking more about sleep disturbances, because this is one of the major problems that come up with stress. One of the first things we notice with people is that their sleep patterns are changed when they're under a lot of stress, under this chronic stress. So if we can help get a really good sleep regimen, that sometimes will help to mitigate the long-term effects of stress. And so we'll talk a little bit more about what a good sleep regimen can look like. Other kinds of impacts. We talk a little bit about the physical impacts, but psychological. There are major psychological impacts of long-term prolonged stress. And again, the chronic stress that we're talking about. Our reduced cognitive performance. This is when you really are, I can't concentrate, I can't think, I can't remember things. This is when kids might forget home. They might forget homework. You can have a good student, all of a sudden they don't remember homework, or, you might even forget to pick up the kids, things like that. Procrastination, lots of different things psychologically and cognitively can happen when stress is at the chronic level. Anxiety and depression, pessimism. Anxiety is, if someone is really stressed, almost always we can pair some level of anxiety with that. They're anxious because they are not focused on what's happening right now. They're focused on, this is going to go wrong, this has gone wrong. And it's hard to be present when you're worried about, we're either looking really far back or we're looking too far ahead. And so we're really just stressed and worried. So anxiety, which then creates that twin spirit of depression. So depression then is paired with that. And so we really want to pay attention to stress, because these two things paired together can cause us to pull away from people, to pull away from society, and make it really much harder to cope. Other things that come with sometimes the psychological impacts are sort of just unhealthy lifestyle choices. We might, change how we're eating. Eat too much or eat too little, or, skip meals, or eat the things that aren't good for us, which again, then brings on heart disease and other kinds of health ailments and health disparities. Substance misuse or abuse. It's a way to kind of check out, to get your mind off of things. But typically what we see, if that becomes a consistent way of coping, having a glass of wine every day as a way of coping. That's the only way I can settle my nerves, is to just have that glass of wine. Or I've just got to use just a little hit today, but maybe then that becomes every day. Now I'm lethargic going to work, things like that. So if we stay in sort of those unhealthy ways of coping, they tend to create, and scientists recognize that they now create additional levels of stress, so it just complicates stress even more. And then another thing that just tends to happen sometimes when we are really stressed out, we just really struggle to just get up and get dressed. So there's those routines, sort of normal things we would expect for people to do, they become challenging. And if you've thought about it, there are days that it's just hard to get out of bed, to get on to the next thing. That is what we're talking about. We may not be able to make the bed or even get a shower. That kind of stress can really cause you to not want to do just the basics. And so all these implications, if we don't interrupt that or refocus sort of energies towards turning that negative stress into something positive, we can end up really impacting health long term. And so I want to talk a little bit about sort of what do we do then? What are the benefits? What are the benefits? And before I start to really walk through the benefits, I want to point something out, again, because it's Minority Health Month. When we talk about stress, one of the things that we know happens because of various, oppressions in society, health and wellness, and that psychological health and physical health is impacted by those things. So when we use terms like pull yourself up by your bootstrap, you can just do it. About 20% of what we're able to accomplish as humans in complex society has to do with our own just grit. We're going to do it on ourselves, on our own. But we know healthcare systems, legal systems, immigration systems, all of these systems impact how people function. And so when we have oppressions that individuals are having to navigate daily, even if they've got the grit and the grind, we have to help navigate those systems in order to mitigate chronic stress. And so that's something we want to be cognizant of. It's not to just tell people to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Let's help them up, because these systems are oppressive and are difficult to navigate. And so I just wanted to put that out there as we move towards thinking more about, what are those positive benefits of stress. And I'll spend the rest of my time sort of really talking about that. Do you want me to take any questions right now, or should I just continue?
I would say go ahead and continue, Mrs. Peppers, and then we can hold the questions to the end.
All right, thank you. So let's talk about those benefits. The brain is just this wonderful. I love neurology, and I will admit I'm no brain surgeon, neurologist, any of that. But I love how the brain operates. The brain is a magnificent organ, and it really has ways of helping us to adjust and adapt to change. And so one of the first benefits of stress is that we have this wonderful brain that's adaptable. When we get into a stressful situation, the brain sends those messages. It says, either stand here and deal with this, or you need to get out of this. So it really gets adrenaline going and says, be on the alert. So stress can keep us safe. I tell my clients when they come in, when they're really stressed out, and I will say to them, how are you using your stress? What's it doing for you? Is it motivating you to change? Is it motivating you to do something you've always wanted to do, to try something new? Or is it just pulling you down in the dumps, just weighing you down? And if they tell me that it's pulling them down, we immediately start talking about what this energy they have is doing for them before it goes to this level of just draining. And that's the sort of Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde thing about stress. It can pull you up, but it can also pull you right back down if you allow it to progress. So we got to recognize that sort of nature of stress, these negative impacts. But if we can create a really good balance with stress, it could propel us to some really awesome things. And so adrenaline gives us that alertness. It says, be on the alert. Cortisol gives us energy. It says, look, we're going to have you alert. We don't want you going sort of saber-toothed tiger, ready to jump out on someone kind of alert, but we want you to pay attention to what's coming around the corner. So these brain cells start moving, they start developing, getting more cells ready to replenish those that are going to be used during stressful moments. So the brain in the body is phenomenal in that respect. The last thing I would say in terms of one of the major benefits of stress is one we don't really think about a lot, is that stress can really lead us to some long-term positive changes. Even those really chronic stressors, like, again, deaths of loved ones, divorces, things like that have the pandemic. We've seen people during the pandemic make massive life changes, change jobs to jobs now that they feel they're thriving in, that they wanted to do for a lifetime, get their creative juices going back to painting and all those things that had interest, going back to school. A lot of people went back to school online. So these major stressors can also give us some positive long-term changes to make some moves that, anxiety and stress has, could have caused us to put on hold. So some positive benefits can come out of stress. And so when you start to think about stress, really start to change how you see stress so that we indeed can stress less. So let's talk about how we're going to do that. How we're going to do that. As a therapist, I'm going to keep coming to you from that psychological standpoint, because that's where I spend my time. So really start with thinking. Think is one of the biggest ways to alter sort of how you experience stress. Our pastor, and I don't know where he got this from, but he would say things like, I act the way I act because I think the way I think. And as a therapist, I would sit and listen to him say that a lot. And I thought, well, that's a good counseling sort of strategy, because in cognitive behavioral therapy and other kinds of therapies, rational emotive therapies, we use that principle is I'm acting this way because I'm thinking this way, which caused me to feel a certain way. I feel this way, I'm going to do this thing. So if I can change how I think, I can change how I feel, and I can change how I act. And again, I want to keep throwing out here, that does not negate the systems that are impacting people's lives, people of color lives, marginalized individuals, based on, just affecting people based off of gender and sex and orientation, all those things. That doesn't negate any of that. We still have to deal with those systems. So I want us to stay focused on that as well. But let's manage stress via thinking. So I want to do something with you really quickly. So if you could, just bear with me for a couple of moments. If you watch cartoons when you were growing up, or if you watch them now, I want you to get your favorite cartoon character. I want you to imagine that. Or if you don't even mind, close your eyes and imagine this. And then think about the characteristics of that cartoon character. Think about how it sounds, what it does, how it makes you laugh. Just get everything, all the things you can think of. I'm going to sit for a couple of seconds and let you get that character, everything. Just nod for those who I could on the screen I can see, and let me know you got it. All right, looks like folks have it. All right, now I don't want you to think about that anymore while we're talking. I don't want you to think about that character at all. Don't imagine it at all. Don't think about how it sounds. Don't think about what it's like. None of that. I want you to just push it out of your head right now. Is anybody able to do that? He's still kind of sitting there, isn't it? You can kind of see it. And it's because when we focus on something, it has a way of staying with us. So we focus on all the sort of negative impacts of our stress, the negative things about our stress, the negative things that's happening in our lives. That's what's going to take over and take control. And that's what's going to be with us. It's going to be hard to move out of that. So replacing how you see stress, and we can start to think about stress as an opportunity. Think about it in terms, it's still there, isn't it? Resiliency. We think about those opportunities, the resiliency. Hopefully by the time we're done, that cartoon character will be gone, but it will float here and there, just so you guys know. But if we can focus on sort of our resiliency, our opportunities, think about, you know what? I've gone through tough things before. I got this, I can do this. I might need some assistance in this one, but you know what? I've done tough things before. So it's that resiliency that we want to take the stress that we have and change how we think about it so that we can move. You know what? I've done this. I've done more than this. I can handle this. And so we want to change that, the way we think about stress, into a focus on our resiliency and opportunity. Here's an opportunity for me to try something new. I just lost my job. Well, I wasn't loving that job anyway. I was afraid to leave it because of benefits, and now it's just going to create some more stressors. But you know what? I've got another opportunity. Where's my opportunity? Where can I find my opportunity? So we want to change that focus towards opportunity. And one of the things as a counselor, I really try and help people to understand, because not being able to manage emotions, so just shifting for a second, not being able to manage emotion is a really big part of stress. We've been socialized to think that if you get angry, you're awful, that you're just going to lose your cool, that you're just not a good person. You've got to be positive and nice and upbeat all the time, that, put a smile on your face, don't frown. We're told those things. Women in particular are told those things. And obviously for Black women, we're told, why are you looking so angry? We could be contemplating, thinking, things like that. So now we bear the burden of microaggressions and things like that. And so part of that also creates stress. So one of the things I'd like for people to do is to get really comfortable with their full range of emotions. It is okay to be frustrated by things. It's okay to be angry about stuff. It's okay to be sad and want to cry. It's okay to feel joy and excitement, even though someone else is not excited or happy. We temper our joy sometimes because other people are frustrated by your happiness and joy. So it is so important, if you want to reduce stress, to learn how to feel comfortable with all of your emotions. The emotions aren't the problem. It's really how we express those emotions. If you're going off on someone, that is creating stress for you, and it's creating stress for the person on the other side and anybody else that happens to walk into that vicinity. So that's not an effective way to manage sort of your emotions. It's okay to experience your emotions, but how you demonstrate those become the problem. So all of your emotions are important. So getting comfortable with your full range of emotion really can help to reduce stress. Holding stuff in is just way too much. It really creates, again, that chronic stress. When you feel like you can't express yourself, something happens inside of us. A little bit of us dies as we hold who we truly are in. I can't say that that was frustrating to me because it's going to upset you. That really is just no healthy way to live. So getting comfortable with emotions, that's a way of managing stress, is understanding it's okay. Again, understanding the difference between oppression and depression. Again, for clients of color, marginalized individuals that come into my office, one of the things that produces so much stress are these oppressions in the legal system, oppression navigating the healthcare systems, disparities in the healthcare system, navigating, I counsel lots of children, navigating the school systems, having children labeled without appropriate assessment and treatment. Those things just create any number of chronic kinds of stress. And so understanding, part of what we talk to clients about is, what is oppression? What is depression? Because with depression, there are things that you can do, changing your thinking, changing how you eat, changing how you exercise, changing how you think about things. There are some things you can do. We can get biological assistance through medications if needed, if your biological system is off. Those are things we can do. But then again, getting back to this idea that helping people to recognize what's oppressive then becomes what's most important in this. Because if we're saying, again, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, yet I've gone to the school 5 times to talk to the school, and no one will help me with my child, yet they keep sending them home, and now my job is in jeopardy. That's an oppressive system at work. So we as counselors, other teachers, other professionals, we need to engage with those folks and help them to navigate what's an oppressive system versus just oppression. So we all, as a collective group, have to work with families and people to help navigate that sort of stress. So understanding that, though, then takes the weight off of you. It takes the burden off of you that I got to do it alone. So it's important to do that. Another thing to do, to manage stress, again, as we're thinking about it, is to just, what are my stressors? If being late is a stressor, you might want to set your clock to get up 15 minutes early. So you go into work, not angry, not frustrated, not flustered, not, upset. So know your triggers, know what makes you stressed, know what gets you stressed, and then change those things. And then the last two, just visualize a change in your situation. Have some hope. Reframe, reframe, reframe. Rather than using negative language, it takes 11 positives to outweigh 1 negative. So if you say something negative about yourself, I can't do it, or you're going to have to really be practicing this idea of, let me say 11 more things to get that off the table. Or again, it's going to really push stress. So be thinking about it in those terms. Community support. I think the most important way to manage stress, and again, I talk about this with my clients, is using your community. It is hard to say, go do something if I don't have childcare. It's hard to say, go get your nails done if I don't have any money. It's hard to say, feed the kids something healthy if I can't even get home in time to cook. We need a network. We need resources. Again, in communities where folks are impoverished, or in families where they don't have additional people to help them and support them, stress runs amok. And so utilizing your faith tradition, your family and friends, getting involved with mutually respectful relationships. And so relationships that are reciprocal. And I mean, we're talking give and take, not you got to do, so I do. That's not what I mean. Healthy relationships is what I'm getting at. If you're in healthy relationships, that really does help reduce our stress level. We don't have to worry about what's happening with family and friends. And these are healthy relationships. We can go to those relationships when we're stressed out, and they can help boost us. A network is one of the most important things you can have if you're going to reduce stress. Again, I can't go get my nails done if I got to drag all my kids with me. No one's there to watch my kids. We can just tell people just go for a walk. Well, I can't just go for a walk. My mom is there and I need someone to sit with her while I go for a walk. Network is an important way of reducing stress. Sororities, fraternities, having sisters and brothers in that way, all are things that help to reduce stress. Another way is, giving. Believe it or not, I know some folks are probably thinking, you're saying go volunteer when I don't have time to do what I'm doing already? Yeah, I'm saying just that. Sometimes we get out of our head about our problems when we are helping someone else with theirs. And there are positive benefits. Again, research shows that there are lots of benefits to us being supportive. And obviously, as a sorority, we do this well. Our president led with talking about what the things that you're doing. That's exactly what we're talking about. Giving to others improves our mental health. It reduces our stress. And so we really want to think about this way, think about service in a way that is helpful to others, but again, helpful to us. So if you're stressed out doing some of the work you're doing, turn that stress into a positive. I'm helping them, but this is helping me. I'm giving back to a community that I care about. So all of that can help to build us up. I have my own time, guys.
You're doing good, Sora.
All right, thank you. Let's talk then about sort of those general sort of stress management tools. These are the ones everybody know about. Time management, just managing our time. And so things like, setting calendars, getting your calendar together, organizing things. And I know, again, this idea of sitting down, organizing something, again, takes time. But time on the front end gives you time for these other things that we talk about, we want you to do in order to maintain good health. If I say go hiking and you don't have time to go hiking, that is a tool, that is a stress management activity that will serve you absolutely no purpose. But if you do some meal prep on, I don't know, Saturday afternoon, and you got some meals done for several days, that may give you a day after work while the kids are at their activity to just go walk your neighborhood. Now maybe you can walk because dinner is already set when you get home. And so time management is crucial to having good mental health, having good physical health, and reducing stress. Let me just say something to those of us who lead, who are supervisors, who are leaders in whatever organizations we're in, who are leaders at our jobs. One way you can help people with stress, to reduce stress, is to reduce unnecessary meetings. Reduce unnecessary meetings, reduce unnecessary emails, provide agendas ahead of time, take out duplicative meetings, create flexible work schedules. So if someone really needs to get in at 8:30, because that's when their childcare starts, at 8 o'clock, let them come in at 8:30. And then if they need to stay and someone else can get the kids, now you've helped that person to reduce stress. Again, that collective effort that we have in reducing stress. So setting agendas, having calendars, all those things at home really will help to reduce stress. Maintaining good health. There's, this is the one we all know about, eating better. You're right, eating things that are good for us, getting those vegetables in, drinking that water, having, water bottles, and having, for some people, they need to see those bottles move, have a labels up the bottle that say by noon, I'm here. Any of those things that can reinforce those good habits are important. If you're like me, I sit in meetings, obviously I'm meeting with clients all day. And so part of what I've had to learn to do now is to get up and walk in between sessions, do the paperwork later, so that I can be moving through the day, because now I'm sitting for hours on end. So it's finding these little things that work for your life in order to help you to maintain good health. The one I really want to spend a little time in terms of good health talking about, again, is the sleep regimen, because so much of what happens to us happens as a result of a lack of sleep. So as you're thinking about sort of managing stress, start to think about what your sleep regimen look like. What kind of sleep routine do you have? Are you a person that comes home, gets dinner, does whatever, and then you go right to the TV to chill, and or you are on your phone, or you may be doing more meetings, I don't know. You want to think about sort of how late you schedule meetings. You want to think about when you turn off electronic devices, because melatonin, which is our sleep aid, natural sleep aid, is not produced in light. We need darkness in order for melatonin and other sleep hormones to be active. So dimming the lights in your house, I tell people, put your house to sleep. You know, you're trying to get ready for sleep, start to put your house to sleep. Turn the lights down, turn some soft music on, or if you're gonna watch TV, set a time that before you're ready for bed, that the TV goes off or your screens go off, because again, you got that light in your face. You wanna really reduce that because it's going to disrupt your sleep. Not drinking caffeine, you know, past noon, because caffeine can stay in your system for like 12 hours. So it will disrupt sleep. So setting times to sort of, you know, think about what your sleep regimen is and see if you can't get your house to sleep, settle your children, and settle your mind so that you can get a good night's sleep, because sleep then disrupts so many other things. If you're not rested, if you're waking up, going to sleep, but you're waking up, that's going to leave you not rested. So that will create stress for you getting out the door. That'll create stress for you on the job. You'll feel lethargic. So a proper sleep regimen is really so important. And what I would really say, if you can just give up one thing that has to do with getting a better sleep routine, two things I would say, is to dim the lights in your house. That would be one thing. And to put away devices by a certain point, to say you're not just going to be on those. Those things will help to get your sleep regimen back in some semblance of order. And we can talk about other things with sleep, like your bedroom being just a place for sleep, not where you're doing TV and other things besides probably your intimacy, those kinds of things, but not where you're doing your work. So making your bedroom a place for rest, rest and relaxation is what I would say to you on that. But a good sleep regimen is really important. So think about that as a way of sort of reducing stress. And then I'll talk about a couple other things, and then I'll take questions here in just a moment. Mind-body exercises, yoga. I don't know how many of you do yoga, but if you do yoga, that's an excellent mind-body sort of experience to have. I will backtrack just for a moment. Let me just say this, with any of these mind-body experiences we talk about, I want to couch that in this idea of, if you're an individual who's experienced significant traumas related to your body or other kind of traumas, mind-body exercises may not be appropriate at the onset. You may want to work with a therapist, because you will have those out-of-body sort of experiences and won't feel connected to your body because of those traumas. And so that would not be a place I'd encourage you to start. I'd encourage you to start with working with someone on helping you to sort of navigate that sort of experience. So I want to make sure I put that out, because this is not, mind-body experiences is not for everyone when you have traumas that you've not been able to fully reconcile. So I would say, so I want to couch that, you know, put that out there. But things like yoga, Tai Chi, progressive muscle relaxation. And if you don't know what PMR is, that is progressive muscle relaxation. And that is a way of tensing your body purposely to start to understand what your body feels like when it's under pressure, when it's under stress. So you purposely tense your muscles, and then you relax them, so you know when you get angry or you get stressed out or you get upset about something, you start to recognize what your body is already doing, so you can purposely counteract that. So let me just do one other quick thing with you, just with this progressive muscle relaxation. One of the things we do is we go from the head to your toes and tensing from the top of your head to your toes, your shoulders, all of those things, your stomach muscles, your legs, your toes, everything. And you just go straight down your body, tensing and relaxing until you figure out which parts of your body are your tense spots. For me, I know if I start doing something like this, my hands are tense. I feel tension in my hands. So I know then I've got to do some tensing those hands, holding those and releasing that tension out of my hands because I'm also feeling it in my arms. And so part of what you want to do is to learn where is the tightness for you so that you can relax that tension. So I'm just going to do one part of your body here just for a quick second. So if you could, where you're sitting, just put your feet flat on the floor, and then just bring your hands out in front of you like this. Can everyone see that? And then if you could, and if you can't do this, that's fine. Pull your arms as far back as you can. Get them as far back as you can. Hold them for a couple of seconds. Now drop them quickly. Just let them go quickly. Did you notice the tension in your shoulders, in your arms? And if you feel tension, if you're one of those people that feel tension there, you're now probably wanting to wiggle. You're trying to work that out. So part of what good progressive muscle relaxation can do is to help you find the tight spots where you feel tension. And then it can help you to release that tension. You can learn when you get in that fight or flight kind of thing, your body starts doing its own thing. And this is a way to change that and alter that tension. Because with tension, you're experiencing stress. And this is a way to relax and to take that stress away. And so there are really good progressive muscle relaxation videos online. If you all have questions about any of them, you feel free to email me and I can send you some good recommendations for ones to do. But you can do a full from the top of your head to the bottom of your toes and start to know where you're feeling tension. So there's a great way to relax. And I'll just say one more thing on this idea of mindful sort of exercise. And just in case I didn't mention this, but mindfulness is really just about having experiences without judging them. So just being present, being mindful of where you are so you're not stuck in your head about your problems, about the things that are stressing you out. It's really just making you be present for a moment. And so mindful eating, mindful drinking. So if you have coffee in the morning, this is something I'd like for you to try for coffee drinkers or tea drinkers. When you have your next coffee, or what is the frozen coffees even, just hold a cup. Feel the warmth or the coldness on your hands. Just notice it. Don't judge it. Don't say it's too cold, it's too this, it's too hot. Just notice, feel it. Just notice it. Smell it. Take in the aroma of your coffee. Notice the smell. Notice the taste. Notice the warmth going down your throat. Just have an experience even with that cup of coffee. And so learning to be more mindful when you're walking, noticing your feet on the pavement, when you're eating, taking time to put your fork down to chew in between bites. All that is mindfulness that brings us present. It helps to reduce our stress and it takes us for a moment out of our problems. And so if you can do that just for 10 minutes a day, just noticing things. And again, this is one of those areas I'd be glad to send you some mindfulness activities, get all your senses involved. Sometimes I'll tell clients, give me 5 things you see, just walk through the senses, 4 things you can hear. That's forcing us to be present and in the moment, and just walk through your senses. If you've got a great candle to smell, take in that smell. One of my kiddos has created Play-Doh, clay, and I use it in my office. It has these various scents and the kids love it. I love it. You can get your hands involved. You got your senses involved. It's wonderful. So even as adults, get you some scented clay and just have it at your desk. You can go through 2 or 3 senses all at once with that clay. So things like that, just being mindful. And then just complete a pleasurable activity list. If you don't know what brings you pleasure, hop online and grab one of those lists. They usually have several, 100 items on there. And I bet you can find something that you enjoy that you haven't done in a while. And so get your full body involved in this. And then finally, I'll just leave you with this list. It's just a brief list. Again, getting your full body involved. Get some action oriented sort of activities, hiking, gymming, going to the gym, domestic kind of activities, cleaning, organizing, playing instruments, those creative juices, spiritual, praying, all those things. And again, I close with network because we cannot do this alone. No man is an island. And we, by rule, humans are social beings. We need to be connected. That's the beauty of a sorority, is that you can be connected. And so get connected. That's what I would leave you with. Build a network. That's one of the best ways to reduce stress. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you so much, Sword. This was just really informative and very informational. Please give her a round of applause. She did an amazing job. And you hit on a lot of key points that as African Americans, we typically don't put ourselves as a priority, and really offer some small tips, just starting your day off, those little things that really make a difference. So we really appreciate you so much for being here with us this morning. And then we're gonna allow the guests, and then some of our sorors to ask questions if they have them. We just ask that you raise your virtual hand or your real hand so that we can call on you to get those answered. So I see Candace, you have your hand raised, so go ahead and ask your question, and then Kenya.
It actually wasn't a question, but I really like how you talked about the difference between oppression and depression, because it just seems like in the last few years, like every, time there was another like Black man being killed. And I just felt like Black people, there was like this tension, like this trauma, and then like how to interact around white counterparts. Like it almost felt like we were kind of going through like a trauma together. So I just like how you brought that out, because I don't think we think about how world events affect us, but it just like I was like watching Ketanji Brown's like hearings, I was like nervous for her. Like I felt like I was going through it too. So I like how you brought that up. So
Let me just point. You bring up an excellent point. When we experience these shootings, these traumas together, we are experiencing them as a collective. And one of the things I would say to you all in terms of reducing stress is don't feel like you got to rescue counterparts, your white counterparts and other people from that. Part of, again, how we change things is that we are experiencing it as a collective, and we shouldn't own the brunt of how do we navigate these shootings. And so we don't need to make you feel good. We want you to be okay, but that's not our role in that moment, because right now we've got to nurse the hurt and pain we're feeling. That's an excellent point.
Thank you so much, Candace, for that comment. Kenya, and then
Yes. Yes, thank you, guys. Thank you so much for the presentation. I definitely really enjoyed it. I did have a comment because I want to get your perspective about the TV and lights being off during sleep. I am 100% opposite. If I even have a roommate or I'm out vacationing with any friends, and if they try to trick me and turn the TV off because they think I'm already sleeping, I immediately wake up. So I just want to kind of get your thoughts on, or if you had a perspective on how some people are kind of wired that in that opposite way.
And that can happen. One of the things though is you can do, again, the brain is beautiful in this way that it can handle retraining. And probably, most of the time you probably feel like you've gotten your best rest because you went to sleep with the TV or with whatever you had or streaming whatever you were streaming. The problem is though, is that the body knows that it didn't get its exact amount of sleep. It didn't get what it needed, in that sense. And so you can do things like if it's, sort of try and sort out what it is. Is it the noise? Is it what is it about that? So maybe you do white noise. Maybe you do, sort of, the rainforest kinds of sounds or things like that. Or maybe simply put on a sleep timer. For people like this, one of the simplest solutions for them is to actually go to bed to this if you have to. Make sure you're as far away from your TV as you can be so that the light is right. Cut all the other lights off. So that's the only light you got going. And then put a sleep timer on your TV. And most of the time, then you will fall asleep and you will have a deeper sleep. The problem is not that you don't stay in your deep sleep as long as you would need to stay in it. And so that's part of what you would, I would encourage you to do.
Thank you. Danielle?
I have a problem with going to sleep. I can do all the things. I can put on music. I can light a candle. I can put on calming lotion, and I will be up for hours. Sometimes I can get 4 hours of sleep. Sometimes I can get a full 8, but sometimes it's hard to get my brain to shut off at night. So what would be some suggestions for that?
And so it sounds like, and let me just say this, I don't presume to be your therapist or anything like that. So I want to just point that out. But if someone is coming to me saying these things, part of what I want to understand, and so what I would want you to consider is what's happening prior to sleep. When you've got sort of recurring, intrusive thoughts just popping in your head, you've got 50 million things going. One, we want to start practicing how to do some thought stopping. Those are some of the things we want to do. But we probably need to deal with what's at the core of that. If you feel overwhelmed, it could be some of the day-to-day things. I've had to do so many things. Now I can't get those things off of my head. So it may be time management. It may be dealing with the schedule of what's happening with your activities. I need to have a little bit more information, but those are the places I would want to start, is take a look at sort of what you're doing in terms of a lead up to that. Or do you have some major stressors at work? Or are there things going on with your children? Then those thoughts, when you sit and be quiet, all that stuff comes flooding back to you. So then we may have to deal with some other things that really is creating the sleep disturbance, rather than just say, oh, just, light a candle and all that. If there's something else, again, that's creating that, we want to deal with the source. So sometimes it takes a little bit of talking through to figure out, where is that real source of stress that's creating all of these random thoughts once you try and settle your brain? If you're running all day, you really don't have time to think about all that stuff. And as soon as you hit the pillow, there it all is. Your thoughts are just running rampant. So I would want to try and explore some of those things.
Thank you so much, Sora. Ava, and then Jennifer.
Okay. So I just had a quick question about how many hours before bed would you suggest like turning off the screens? And also, what is your take on reading sometimes? Because I use electronic devices to read before I go to sleep, because that's how I catch up on the news and what's going on in the world. So what do you recommend for that?
I recommend 1 to 2 hours. I would say that right off the bat. And I know that will throw folks in this day and age, but I actually do recommend that. With reading, if you can get a softer light, again, if you're reading by a lamp or something like that, where you can adjust the light rather than the screens. I don't know how you feel about grabbing a book. If you're going to do screens, I would say get your reading done sooner, and then you can shift to some other sort of relaxing thing. And even if you go to TV, again, make sure that you are as far away from your TV as you can be, and that everything else in the room is dim and stuff. Really, you're trying to get that light off of you so that your body can start to sense it's time to get prepared for bed. So I would say 1 to 2 hours. If you can start with even 1, I would encourage you to do 1. Half an hour each night, just creep it down a little bit. That's what I would say. And then do that pleasurable activity list, because you may find there's some other stuff you like doing. Anything else?
Jennifer.
I was just listening to everybody speak about, things that are happening in the community and how it affects you. So growing up in the inner city of St. Louis, my natural bedtime sounds would be gunshots and car break-ins and windows being busted, to the point that you heard a gunshot that you didn't even duck anymore. You just like, oh, that happened on the next street. And I found that when I moved to Texas and I moved into this super quiet neighborhood, I could not sleep at all. It was just too quiet. And the only way I could sleep is if I had things like cops on or NCIS, things that I had that were, familiar. And so now I'm trying to figure out how to wean, because now the TV irritates me and I can't sleep. But then once I turn the TV off, it's like, okay, it's too quiet.
Yeah, there's something to be learned about silence. One of the first things they taught us, which is a healthy thing in our training program, was how to sit in silence with a client. Let me just tell you, 30 seconds of sitting quiet is hard. And so I don't pretend that it is not having a lot of silence. But it is so important to start practicing that, even if one of the things that happens if you're sort of watching cops or other things like that, we generally go back to what we know. So so that's not unusual that you would do that. We sort of go back to what we know, and that can, chaos even brings comfort sometimes, just so you know, because it's what we know. And so the brain is going to keep pushing us back to those traumas in order for us to reconcile sort of where we are in the moment. So one thing that I would encourage you to do, and it's a slow walk, and so you don't have to do it all at one time, but start to change. For you, you may not even right now be at a place where you want to just turn off the TV, but change the kind of show that you're watching. Turn it to something that brings you joy, that is more uplifting, and see if you can start falling asleep with that first. And then we start to titrate you down out of that to something else, to not having the TV on. So recognize where your body is, what it's requiring in the moment. But in order to move ourselves through trauma and to reconcile it, we actually have to practice getting out of it as a response. And so, as a comforting response. The chaos we know is better than the chaos we don't sometimes, right? So we go back to that. And so I would say start small, because you don't want to just jolt your system. You don't want to do that either. But yeah, what you're describing is perfectly normal. So I get what you're saying.
Any other questions? I did want to make a comment too, Sora. I thought that when you talked about the yoga and that just taking those small moments of time, like I found that to be like really helpful, because I work in a male dominated, department, and I'm one of the only Black female administrators, and maybe one within, 10 Black faces in the entire building. And so a lot of times, we dealing with microaggressions and a number of other things. So I found it very fitting every morning, whether it's 5 or 10 minutes, just to do, yoga, do some deep breathing exercises. I have found too, changing the way that you look at things really kind of shapes and sets you up for the day. If you think negative about things all day, then you're going to have a negative attitude. You're going to have a negative perspective. So really trying to change the way that I think, and putting myself in that perspective has been very, very helpful over the last couple of months. So I think you share some great tips.
Well, you're welcome for any of those. And I will just piggyback off what you said. This idea of just retraining again our brain to experience stress in a different way, because we can't remove all of it. But, we shouldn't have to endure microaggressions, but we do. So do we focus on that particular microaggression or not? One of the things that I would practice with my children when they were younger, I grew up in Mississippi, so, I know a lot about racism, overt racism. And so when I would be with my children, if people were doing racist, overt things, I dealt with it. Otherwise, I would let it go. So I'm not in someone else's stuff all day living their stuff. And so we have to find ways, while we're working as a collective to minimize these things, we still want to shield ourselves so that we're not having these experiences. And the other person has gone on about their merry way. They're not in the least bit concerned that what they just said was offensive, and we're still stuck in it. It alters how we intersect with the next person that comes in contact with us, how we intersect with our children when we go home, just all of that. So you those are excellent points. I would agree with you wholeheartedly.
London, I see you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that point. I work at a predominantly African-American school. However, my staff is predominantly Caucasian. And so just dealing with that systemic racism really, resonated with, what Jakara was saying in terms of how you have to deal with things that you shouldn't have to deal with. And so I find myself stressed. And so when you were doing the exercise in terms of like raising our hands, sometimes I'm walking throughout the entire, with the whole day, and about 12 or 1 o'clock, I notice that my shoulders are like up, and I may sit down and I'm like, oh my God, my shoulders was like that entire day. Like, it's so unconscious, but it's just that tense, and it's the day-to-day interaction and all of the things that we have to deal with. So you doing an exercise, it just made a lot of things make sense. So I appreciate that.
Anytime. And if you want me to send you some good progressive muscle relaxation scripts or anything like that, that you can go from head to toe, feel free. I think, I don't know if you have my email, but if you all can make sure folks get it, feel free to email me and I can send you some scripts. These things are things you can do at your desk. They can do just walk in the hallway. Folks don't even notice that you're doing some of these, but it brings a lot of relief. So I really encourage people to practice two things. If they can do two things, good breathing, if you don't have, again, pulmonary issues or things like that, where you need to talk to your doctor first, practice really good breathing, and then practice progressive muscle relaxation. They'll give you a lot of bang for your buck in a very short amount of time, 2 or 3 minutes even.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and take a picture. We like to have those for our records. So we're going to have, I'm going to count to 3. I'm going to have everybody to smile. We'll take a couple pictures because we have 2 pages. So I have to kind of get everybody. So on a count of 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's slide to the next page. So just keep cheesing. All right, 1, 2, 3. Okay, awesome. We're going to go ahead and jump back into our presentation before we allow everyone to head out. We have some information that we would like to share with you that we think would be feasible about some of our upcoming events that we have. And so we'd like to share those with you all. So we just took our group picture and then we're going to talk about some of our upcoming events. And I'm going to turn it over to my soror, Markia Haywood, who serves as the Vice President of the Gamma Kappa Omega chapter.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for that. Thank you to Soror Peppers for that presentation. It was excellent, a lot of great tips, and I just echo everything that has gone forth. But we have some upcoming events coming up for GKO. You will see a link in the chat. If you can go ahead, click that link and fill out a survey. Let us know what you thought about today's program, any suggestions you might have. We really want to be able to connect with you and provide programming that the community needs. This week coming up on Wednesday, we have our financially lit workshop. So April is also financial literacy month. And so we want to make sure that we are equipping you with the tools you need to balance your budget, secure those coins, and invest in your future. So feel free to join us on April the 27th at 7:08 p.m. If you head over to our website, which I'll put into the chat as well, you can always register for our upcoming events. And that website is akgko41.com. And then on Friday, we have a masquerade ball. We are just celebrating our legacy and the continual work that Gamma Kappa Omega chapter is doing in the Carbondale and Southern Illinois community. So we would love for you to participate in that ball. Come with your favorite mask, decked out to the 9. It is virtual, but we will have a good time regardless. We're going to be celebrating people in the community that make an impact, that hit our targets. And we just want to open that up to you as well. And then in May, we have some upcoming events in May. May is Lupus Awareness Month. So all month we'll be highlighting lupus and unlocking and identifying the mystery of lupus. On May 6th, we have a Mother's Day fundraiser. So we would love for you to participate in that. That Mother's Day fundraiser, we are our mothers leave a legacy. And so we know our mothers have given us so many different pearls of wisdom. So we want to do a tribute to mothers. We'll have giveaways, and then tickets for that event is $25. And that is also on our website, www.akgko41.com. And then finally in May, we will have our lupus event. We have a guest speaker from the University of Chicago Medical Center, and she will be discussing lupus, the effects that it has on the African American community, and then what we can do to identify it. Lupus is a mystery right now, and a lot of people in the African American community struggle with lupus, fight it every day, and they might have it and not even realize it. So be sure to join us for that discussion on May the 31st, and that will be at 7:08 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sora Markia. We want to go ahead and conclude the program. I do want to start off by just saying thank you so much, Sora Peppers. You did an amazing job. We're so grateful that you were able to spend this morning with us and give us a little bit of your gems to share with the community about how they can be active and being proactive about stress. So we thank you so much for being with us this morning. We thank you all for attending this morning. We are hopeful that you were able to gain considerable knowledge of information and resources. We look forward to seeing you at future events, and we hope you all have a great Saturday. Go out and take care of yourselves, be proactive, and making sure that you are making a difference, not only in your lives, but also sharing those resources with other people in your families, friends, etc., to help reduce that stress. So again, have a great afternoon. We look forward to seeing you at several other functions.
Sure.
Bye, everybody.